Vincent's next movie was the 1944 film noir classic, Laura. Laura is based on a book of the same name by Vera Caspary, which in turn is based on a 7-part serial she wrote for Collier's magazine called Ring Twice for Laura. It was developed as a stage play, and 20th Century Fox optioned the film rights. After changing creative hands several times, it was eventually assigned to Austrian director Otto Preminger. Laura tells the story of police detective Mark McPherson, played by Dana Andrews, who is investigating the murder of a young ad exec named Laura Hunt, played by Jean Tierney. Turns out the victim was shot in the face at point-blank range with a shotgun, her body discovered by her cleaning lady. Mark questions successful newspaper columnist Waldo Lydecker, played by Clifton Webb, about the murder, as he and Laura were close associates. Mark learns that Lydecker had taken a personal interest in Laura and had helped get her career started by introducing her to all the right people.
Her career began with my endorsement at the pen. I secured other endorsements for her, introduced her to important clients. I gave her her start, but it was her own talent and imagination that enabled her to rise to the top of her profession and stay there.
He was also obviously romantically interested in Laura, despite their age difference, and spent a great deal of time chasing off and discrediting potential suitors for her affection. But the one rival he was unable to dispose of was Shelby Carpenter, played by Vincent Price. The tall, handsome Southern gentleman Shelby had managed to capture Laura's attention and eventually win her heart. They were engaged to be married, much to Lydecker's chagrin. But Shelby was a bit of a playboy and had been carrying on an affair behind Laura's back with a pretty young model from the ad agency. Lydecker exposes Shelby's unfaithfulness, and Laura was left with a tough decision.
Speaking of the changed Mr. Carpenter in the present tense, he's now running around with a model from your own office. Her name is Diane Redfern.
She was planning a retreat to a cabin in the woods to think it over when the murder occurred.
I'm going to the country for a few days. Yes, I'm afraid it's about Shelby. Oh, no, please, there's nothing you can do. I've got to think this thing out for myself. I'm sorry. I'll call you when I get back. Goodbye.
As he learns more about the facts of this case, McPherson becomes increasingly obsessed with the beautiful young Laura. It seems she had a way of enchanting all those around her, and men in particular found her charms irresistible. He falls asleep in a chair in her apartment late one evening and is awakened by the sound of a door opening. In walks Laura, very much alive. McPherson's confused. Who was killed in her apartment? How is Laura still alive? And who was the killer? Full of twists and turns, the finale of Laura is fantastic. Everyone's a suspect, including Laura herself, and it's up to McPherson to sort out the facts and find the killer. The screenplay deviates from the book by placing the character of Waldo Lydecker as the central character, who tells much of Laura's backstory to the detective. The soundtrack is fantastic and highlighted by the theme song, simply titled Laura, an original piece by composer David Raskin. Vincent is terrific as the suave and scheming Shelby Carpenter and pulls off a Southern accent much more convincingly than in his previous film.
Yes, I gave it to Laura for protection. She didn't want it, but I insisted. This house is rather isolated, as you see.
Vincent had previously worked with leading lady Jean Tierney 3 years prior in the film Hudson's Bay and would go on to work with her twice more in his career. He would also go on to work with actor Dana Andrews once more in the 1956 film noir While the City Sleeps. Vincent was also already familiar with director Otto Preminger, having worked with him previously on the stage play Outward Bound. He would go on to work with him again the following year in the film A Royal Scandal.
It's too bad you didn't open that door Friday night, Carpenter. Wait a minute.
Oh, Shelby.
I'm Vincent Price. As your host on Mystery, it's my job to fan the fires of your imagination with tales of gloom and doom. Right now, I have another chilling tale for you. A tale of danger and mystery that's all the more frightening because it's absolutely true. You see, an old friend, one that you care about deeply, is in grave danger. Your friend calls out. Next to your hand is the single instrument capable of effecting your friend's escape from the dark curse of indifference. You reach out, you take the instrument in hand, and trembling with anticipation, you dial the number. Somewhere a phone rings once, twice. Then a reassuring voice answers, speaking the words you were desperate to hear.
This is your public television station. May I take your pledge?
The tension snaps. Almost giddy with relief, you pledge $50, $75, no, $100. And for the first time in ages, you sleep in peace, knowing that everything was done that could be done to save a valued friend. The only mystery is, what took you so long to come to the rescue?